Croeso cynnes I chi gyd I bodlediad Tadau'r Trymder gyda fi, Daddy Hugh. Welcome to the Fathers of Metal podcast with myself, Daddy Hugh of METALIDADS. And today I am thrilled to welcome our special guest, I believe reporting live from Belgium, from what I read. So this is actually our first power metal band on the show so far, and a warm welcome to Kelly Sundown Carpenter, lead vocalist for Civil War. Shemai Kelly, what's happening?
Doing great, man.
Did I get that right? You are in Belgium?
Yeah, I am in Belgium, yeah.
Do you know what? You actually have a bit of a twang.
Yeah, I'm actually from Houston, Texas.
That's what I knew that. That's in my notes, but yeah. I was expecting to hear a lot more of like what ZP Tart, the previous singer of Skid Row, sort of did sound like when he used to talk on stage. But that's not what I was expecting. I've heard it all.
The super country thing. I
don't know. I generally have no expectations in life, but I was actually surprised to hear the twang, and I love the twang because a lot of my best friends are Dutch and Belgian, so it's just quite refreshing to hear the little twang. So, where in Belgium are you currently reporting from?
We're very close to a city called Dinant.
Okay.
Very beautiful place in the Wallonia, which you would call that would be the French part of Belgium. We live across from a beautiful river, the River Meuse. And around this area, you can basically throw a rock and hit a castle or a ruin or something like that. So it's very Lord of the Rings around here. Yeah.
And it's quite nice living in Belgium. It's quite easy to rack up, I suppose, the memorabilia you have behind you, being in craft beer country.
Right. Yeah, it's the best beer for me. I mean, people can debate, but I think it's the best beer in the world. So happy to be here near the supply. Yeah,
absolutely. There's not that I was going to talk about craft beer. There's definitely a major rise in the artisan beer happening throughout the world now, and it's great to see. I unfortunately haven't got the tolerance for it as I used to in my teens, but that's my own problem. I got to get back on that horse when my kids get a bit older. So Kelly, this is normally a question that interviewers, I think, want to get out of the way as a warm-up question, but for us it's a deadly serious question. And in the spirit of METALIDADS and in the spirit of checking in with our bros, Kelly, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best, how's your mental health today, dude?
Today it's pretty good. I would say, I got about an 8 or something right now. I couldn't say that for the time during the pandemic. I think that was a very rough time for a lot of people. And for me, it as a musician that plays live and we want to get out there and have contact with people, I think that it was a very dark time for me. I spent most of it trying to work on the lyrics for the album and try to keep my head down and work, but things were very uncertain as far as, will we ever play live again? What am I doing? What am I doing with my life if I have to depend on likes and BS on social media to have some kind of connection with what I've offered people or what our band has offered people in the way of music? So that was very dark. It was very, very dark time, and I think hopefully everyone is starting to emerge from that, and hope people can get out there, can connect again and see real people, because human beings are social creatures. We need each other.
Absolutely,
we need real interaction, and we cannot we can't really just solve our own inner problems without having a dialogue with other people. So I hope that people can get out there and start that up again.
Great, man. I'm really, I echo everything you say there, especially in regards to, we need connections. Connections are really important. I mean, of course, for yourself, everything came to a grinding halt very quickly. And, yourself, as well as being in Civil War during the time this event happened, you've always been a really busy guy in regards to what you're doing musically. So I'm sure it was a very, very, very tough time for all of you. And again, the uncertainty really must have been very, very difficult for you because it's not just you. You've got staff who work in media, the guys who work on the stage, promoters, etc. It's not just you guys. It's a huge industry and operation, isn't it?
Yeah, my heart really went out to all the organizers and all the people that make everything happen, all the people that work, you know, a stage crew, lights, sound, stage, all those people that are involved in all the little bits that make this thing happen. I was really most concerned actually about them, not namely concerned about bands, but really about those people that make everything happen for us, because it's a huge undertaking to put on a festival or even a small show. There's a lot of work that goes into it, and those people were just out. They were just out of it, you know, immediately. So yeah, I really hope things can kind of get back, because those people, you know, they probably had to go get some other job that they don't like, that they don't have passion for, and I think that a lot of people during the pandemic probably they tried to. I think that they started to reevaluate their lives. They had time away from the rat race and going to a job that they hate every day, and being in a car for an hour, and you know every day, and all this stuff. And I think people started to reevaluate, you know, what they really want to do with their life. And so I hope that they can get back into that, you know, something that they do so well, they serve us so well. And I hope they can get back to doing that, because that's what they want to do, you know. And that's the big choice right now for everybody. It's like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
You know, what do you really want to do?
Point. That's a really, really good point. Even just with my own example, I have come to that, as you said, the quote, reevaluating your life. I now want to do more things I like, less things I don't like, spend more time with people I like. And one thing I've done quite easily over the pandemic is cut out friends, actually family, who I actually don't want around my children anymore, because I don't want those opinions or that type of, not making a System of a Down reference, but that toxicity of around my children. So yeah, I think for some people,
good on you. I get that, and it's nice to hear someone that's making a move to, you know, to kind of jettison some you know, some unwanted energy in your life. That's good. Yeah.
Cool, man.
Because just because they're your family, it doesn't really make them. You know, I always thought family was kind of really more about the people you choose to have in your life, rather than just being chained to people because they are blood necessarily. If they're blood and they act right, and they support, and they're healthy, and they create you know, something good in your life, then cool. But if they don't, bye bye.
Bye bye. Wow. But you're absolutely right. And the way I look at it, before we move on to the next question, I almost think of it like if you're playing a sport, there's that saying, you're only as good as your last game, or you're only as good as your last performance. And that's, I see the simplicity in that sentence with now how I choose to make my connections. Because if someone did something really bad, has done a series of really bad things to me by saying things, doing things, I don't know, yeah, I think, well, if they've been doing this quite regularly, then why should I think, oh, because when I was 6 years old, they used to take me to the candy shop. You know, that's when I was 6 years old. I now got different needs, and I've got a family, my beliefs have changed. And it's about respect, really, and just sometimes just shutting the fuck up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can swear, by the way. It's fine. We're not, even though we're a family-friendly organization, the kids are watching the show, so this is just for dads.
Yeah.
So, dude,
yeah, I mean, when I was born, I think I slapped the doctor. You know, I'd never like to be told what to do, and if anybody in my family, you know, like your dad or whoever, you know, if they're in some kind of an unhealthy cycle, this cyclical thing where they treat you like you're a child, or you don't know, or you haven't, you know, gone out and made your own life, and they want to kick you back into something dysfunctional, then I say absolutely no to that.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks so much for your insight on that. mutual understanding and a mutual, just belief we have in that. In that mind process, I suppose. So just to give our listeners a bit of context of who Civil War are. So Civil War are a power metal band from Falun in Sweden, formed in around 2012 by several former members of Sabaton. Now, Civil War effectively, I like to think, are probably in the same universe as Sabaton in the regards of lyrical themes of war, historical battles, of course. However, Sabaton mainly focus, I suppose, on, I think, more European conflict, but of course you guys, Civil War, have given lots of nods to US conflict too. And I'm just curious, is it because being from Texas, which you are, is that something you brought to the band, or was this a thing before you joined in 2017?
Well, yeah, I mean, they had established, the band of talking a lot about the actual Civil War in America before I joined. And when I came in on this album, I was kind of a big stranger to all the, the historical stuff, or even writing songs about books like we did the Heart of Darkness and Slaughterhouse 5 on this album. That was very foreign to me because I normally talk about inner universe things, inner demons, like things that people struggle with spiritually, the light, the dark, the shadow self, the union type archetypal things, and I was very much more of a non-specific lyricist in that sense. So when I got into it, we kind of continued some of the war themes, but what I tried to do with the lyrics is make it a little bit more personal and draw the listener in kind of a little bit more into the story, where you might be the protagonist or you might be in it, and not just quoting information at you like that I read from some book or whatever. I didn't want that. I think that's very static. And so I wanted it to be a little bit more living, and hopefully I achieved some of it, lyrically at least. Man.
Thanks for that. It always then means each listener will have a different interpretation because it depends on their own past or current lived experience, I suppose. So it makes it, very unique for each listener. Is that what you're going for? Is that your message?
I hope it touches something in them and draws them into something that has something to do with them, where they can relate, to that, because all of these things like war it's just a great metaphor for life. Mm-hmm. It's a battle, and you have disappointments, and you'll have defeats, and it's really the getting up again that really counts. So that's kind of a thread in the album as well.
Excellent. Thanks for that, dude. Really appreciate your response on that. So you've, of course, been a civil warrior since, as I believe that's a term, civil warrior since the end of 2017, and previously the singer in such progressive and metal bands such as Zieler, Adagio, Outworld, Beyond Twilight, Darkology, Episode, and the touring singer for Firewind, who I must be honest is the only band on your resume who I've actually had the pleasure of seeing live. And we're talking, way back in 2006 when they toured the UK with Dragon Force, who are one of my all-time favorite bands. So when they celebrated the release of Allegiance, of course. So you've, of course, been heavily involved with the virtuosic tenor and countertenor vocal styles in these bands. But being born in Texas, I don't assume there's a big power metal scene, I assume, in Texas. So I'm curious, who were your earliest influences on your vocal style? What drew you to tenor singing? I ask because I'm a tenor singer myself. What was the spark?
Well, I'm actually a baritone, but I trained myself up into tenor, but just because I just love that wailing kind of singing. From early childhood, I loved Linda Ronstadt and people like that. I just love that lonesome, beautiful sound that she had. And she had a beautiful color to her voice, and she had so much power. And I loved that when I was a kid. And then I started to get into the Beatles, and you know, it was kind of my job to listen to the Beatles. I would wake up, listen to the Beatles, go to school, come back, listen to the Beatles, you know, get something to eat, listen to the Beatles, go to bed, and do it over again. And that's kind of what taught me about how melodies work and how all the little parts in the music can kind of come together and make a big orchestra, if you like, if you know. And but and then I loved you know, Sam Cooke, and I liked
nice.
the Police. Yeah, I love Motown stuff. I love that stuff. I love
me too.
Stevie Wonder.
Nice.
Yeah. That's what I love about metal, is because metalheads can understand this. You know, we understand that it's all can kind of be it's a nice home for everything.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
There's not probably any style that hasn't been, you know, injected into this art form, this metal. So, but when I started, my big hero was Ronnie James Dio, hands down my favorite of all time. I got to meet him. He was the sweetest, kindest person in the world, and it was an amazing experience to meet him and see that, you know, the talk was true, that he's kind, he's good to his fans, he respects them. So he's the big daddy for me. But actually how I started singing was a buddy and I were going on a little trip up to a music store to look at all the super fancy music equipment, drums, all this stuff that we could definitely not afford, you know. So we were just going to go in there, and it's kind of like a museum for us. And we would, anyway, he stuck in this cassette tape of Operation Mindcrime, and Queensryche's Operation Mindcrime. Wow. And when I heard that, I just said, something in me said, I have to be able to do everything this guy is doing. And so once we got back to my place after the trip, I got out of the car and I basically stole this tape from him. I said, you got to give me this tape. And he was like, but it's my tape. Like, no, it isn't. And I stole it. And so I started practicing that album at like max volume in my car. And I had most of it down in about a month and a half, but not like with any kind of technique or anything. I could just make the sounds, you know. I was just literally really killing myself, you know, to get it down. And so among those influences, I'll have Steve Perry. He's one of my favorite people. He's also very influenced by Sam Cooke as well. And those are my big people. I was a Maiden guy. In Texas, you were like, you were either like a Maiden guy or you are a Judas Priest guy.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So, yeah. There was like there were camps, you know, in the little musical heavy metal culture at the time. And there were these, you know, these guys, they're really more into Priest, and these guys are Maiden. And we were kind of more into the progressive kind of side of music. There was flavors of that happening in Maiden, you know. But I loved Maiden. I was absolutely, you know, blown away by that. And then later I got into Halford and Priest, and I love that too, you know. But I consider the holy trinity of metal as Dio, Dickinson, and Halford.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. Again, yeah. I personally, as a tenor singer, I was introduced to Ronnie James Dio a lot later than Halford and Dickinson sort of came across my desk.
Right.
It's so weird. Like, say today, I'm a bit croaky today, so I couldn't hit all the high notes. But if Run to the Hills came on my playlist today, I've sung that song so often, potentially like you have with almost any song on Operation Mindcrime, that my voice almost like goes into like muscle memory mode, and I could sing that song note perfect. But then if another song came on, I don't know, if Ram It Down by Judas Priest came on or something, I wouldn't be able to do it. my voice goes back into normality. But yeah, so I've got a lot of close associations with definitely 2/3 of that holy trinity, because definitely Halford and Dickinson were my go-to guys. Well, I did the same. I'd go home, try and imitate what they were doing, and then maybe later on learn the techniques.
Absolutely, yeah. Let me say something if there are any singers out there that are watching. the most important thing when you begin is to learn how to imitate other people perfectly. The people that you like, really imitate them down to the wavelength. Get it down. It's not about being an imposter later on. It's about learning where all the stuff is in your voice and how those sounds are made, and becoming familiar. Like you said, if the Run to Hills comes on it. I've got it. You know, I'm on the road. I'm going. And you take all of those tricks that you like and those particular sounds from people that you love, and you put them in your little bag of tricks, and then that becomes who you are. It's not about pure imitation and being a clone and going out there and being a clone. It's about getting it down so perfectly that, you know, you have those tricks in your bag. Yeah.
Cool, man. No, that's really good advice. It really is. And again, you sort of get to know what you're good at as well, and your strengths in your own voice. Funnily enough, just before I move on to the next question, you talk about the Holy Trinity. My probably third person would have been Eric Adams of Manowar. He was sort of my third. So, yeah. So especially because he could do that. Wow! It's just the rasp he could do at the end as well. Oh, damn. I need to stick on a Manowar album.
The glory of the early metal days was such a magical thing, you know. It's so kind of silly for other people to, you know, to listen to maybe now, but that music just brought us so much a sense of belonging to something, you know, else out there, a sense of kind of a special world that you belong to. And only we got it. We got it, and we loved it. And it might be cheesy now, whatever you want to say about it, but it was magic back then. Yeah,
absolutely, man. I suppose especially between probably 1979 and maybe 84, 85, it was great because you had metal bands singing about metal, like you have Exciter with Heavy Metal Maniac and Saxon with Heavy Metal Thunder. It was like 6 years worth of metal was the basis of a song and the theme, and people going even like Metallica's Whiplash, for example, but going to a concert and the just
Metal Militia,
Metal Militia, exactly. How did I forget that? Track 10. Now today is a very special day, of course. It is release day, so I'd like to be one of the first today on the 17th of June 2022 to congratulate yourself and Civil War on the release of your highly anticipated album, Invaders. Now, what is the feeling like in the camp, Kelly?
Well, they're Swedish, so they're not super emotional. You know, they're the North, the men of the North. So, but yeah, I think we're all very, very happy. It finally sees the light of day and gets out there to where people can hear it. It's a great day. Yeah.
Especially as you said, you know, you've almost been twiddling your thumbs for the past 2 years, obviously concentrating on writing the lyrics. And it's great for you, just on a personal level, that at last, what you put your heart and soul into over the past 2 years has finally materialized into something audible. So congratulations, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you.
No problem at all. I'll be honest, the past couple of years since METALIDADS became a thing, I've done more metal listening in the past 2 years than arguably the past 15 years, because I've had a bit of a 15-year break from metal, but because we've been indoors, I've been doing DIY, been going out for running, I've been in the car running errands, etc., because I've only recently learned to drive. So I've had opportunities to listen to music more the past 2 years than ever, and I've been doing a lot of research before interviews and before doing podcasts, etc. So I've very much been in the thrash and death metal camp over the past 2 years. But power metal was my first major love in metal in my late teens. So I have to thank you, by listening to your album Invaders, it has massively reignited my love for power metal in a way I can't explain. And I've already listened to the album 4 or 5 times since it became available to me. So me as an individual, massive fan, and just really, and I hope you guys will get to bask in the glory of the feedback from the critics and the fans.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Yeah, I'm sure we will. We'll bask in something. Yeah.
So, something interesting to just on the album, track 2, of course, Dead Man's Glory. which is a nod to the Irish resistance to a Viking invasion. So it's an absolute banger of a song, and it gives me that almost like Ailstorm pirate metal vibe going on, especially melodically. You got the main melody coming from the keyboard, it sort of fits in that universe. Now I hear the line in the chorus, Erin go bra, which is, of course, for those who aren't familiar with the sentence, it's Irish for Ireland forever. Now, in Wales, we also have our own Celtic language. We have the equivalent in Wales, Cymru am byth, which basically translates as Wales forever. So Cymru is the actual real name for Wales. Wales is almost like an old Germanic Anglo-Saxon word for foreigner or Celtic speaker, which is slightly ironic, but it's the name that's stuck. Now, I would love a verbal promise from you that one day you will consider looking at Welsh mythology and write a song about it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'll write that down.
Let me give you, I've actually, so it saves you writing it down, not that I've come prepared at all, Kelly, but I've actually, I'm sending you 2 Wikipedia links on potentially 2 songs you might be able to, 2 events you might be able to look at that may suit the power metal universe. So first one is the story of Cantre'r Gwaelod, which is a old kingdom referred to as the Welsh Atlantis. So basically the west coast of Wales used to have a lot more land, and it was kept in by a sea mural. But one day the person guarding the sea gate, a Welshman, got absolutely blotto drunk and he forgot to close the gate and therefore flooded the entire kingdom. Now this is a story we're told as children. Typical Welshman. This is a story we're told as children in Wales. But in 2014, there was a major storm, and the storm basically moved a lot of the sand along the west coast of Wales. And because of that, actually ancient forests were actually discovered, so preserved tree stumps, almost giving scientific proof that this kingdom actually did exist. So the first link I've sent you is that, always one of my favorite sort of stories in Welsh mythology. And the second one I'm about to send you now is called The Battle of Fishguard. I think I've already sent it to you. Now, this is quite funny. They're talking about the power of females, the power of the woman. So the Battle of Fishguard is known as the last invasion of the UK. And basically the Normans invaded, or the French invaded, and a local Welsh woman called Jemima Nicholas had her absolute guts full. She got fed up. She basically waited for 12 of the 1,600 French soldiers to get really drunk, basically locked them up in a church and kept them hostage. And the entire 1,600 French troop basically surrendered to basically a bunch of Welsh women who locked up 12 of their corporals in a church. So it's a funny story, and I just wanted to handpick maybe 2 suggestions for you to maybe consider in the future. No pressure at all, just a bit of fun between you and me. So again, I'm going to be we're going to be running out of time shortly, so I just want to maybe just leave with one other thing. I just want to say thanks so much for speaking to me today and speaking to METALIDADS. Great to hear about the new music, and I hope it does really well and you're happy with it. It's great to hear about your influences as well, again, especially since you and I have a lot of similar heroes when it comes to music. So I asked you at the beginning before recording, I asked you to write something down on a piece of paper. I wondered if you could, please, Kelly, could you please hold it to the screen for me? Fantastic. That is absolutely working for me. Thank you so much. So, so on the Fathers of Metal podcast, thank you, Kelly. So let there be talk is the message we're trying to spread throughout the metal circles. It's time we banded together to stop any more dudes not going home tonight to their families. So Kelly, once again, it's been a pleasure, and I'm sure we will catch up soon. And happy release date, Invaders by Civil War. So as we say in METALIDADS always, whether it's whammy bars or weaning, napalm death or nappies, it's always good to talk. So thanks so much for talking to us today. Do you have anything else to say to our listeners at all, Kelly?
My pleasure, and I just want to thank you for doing something that puts some good energy out there and gives people a place that maybe they can talk about things that are going on inside of them, and it's for men, and it's a kind of a cool thing. It's metal, it's men, and it's you know, place to talk, and so I like that about that. And just have a good day, and check out the album, and much love, and thanks for supporting metal.